now. Well, welcome everybody to our virtual Meet the Podcasters event, the first ever Meet the Podcasters event at Spring Q. So, yay! All right. So, my name's Kyle Anderson. I am the host of a couple of the shows that we're going to feature on this little session here. So, but I'll kind of be, I don't know, I guess I don't want to say the man in charge of this because you all made it here today and taking time out of your day. So I think we all deserve a little bit of credit for that. So, so the way this is going to work is that we have 13 different shows that are going to be able to share their show, who they are, what their show is about, different things. So we'll give each one a couple minutes to share out, and then we'll have a slide up to get everybody's contact info out there if you're interested in connecting with anybody that is on one of the shows. And then if we got any time left at the end, we can kind of have a little bit of a free share, kind of free mingle kind of deal. And then the chat box is available. So that's that was kind of loud. So, but the chat box is available. So if you've got questions, go ahead and go ahead and put questions into there as well. So,
who's making martinis?
So,
Corey, can someone mute him?
Yeah, no, really.
We're obviously a bunch of audio professionals here. We know what we're doing.
Well, I know one particular person in the room that hates sound effects, so that person can identify themselves at a later time if they'd like. So, but again, the chat box is there. So if you got questions or anything, go ahead and put it in there, and we'll go ahead and get started here. So, everybody ready to roll?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of heads nodding, so that's good. So, all right. So let me go ahead and get going here. So here is loading. So here's the shows that we're going to be taking a look at in no particular order, starting out first. Rochelle.
Did I win?
You won. You're first.
Yes. That like never happens.
Well, it was mostly because you emailed me and requested.
I know. I'm sorry. It's so hard for me being on the East Coast with the times, my schedule. I had it like, wait, am I late for something? You know, so thank you for doing that. And I'm glad to be here with all of you. It would have been awesome to be there in Palm Springs. I was looking forward to it so much. So definitely for next year. But yeah, podcasts. I have been a guest on many podcasts over the years, and I always love that opportunity. But for myself, I never really thought, honestly, I started to blog. I never even really knew what a blog was. Like, what would I write about? And a podcast, I'm like, what I talk about? So it's kind of funny with my podcast that I started in September. I would just record, an episode, try to do every single Monday. But it's a conversation with myself most of the time. I don't really have guests yet, although I welcome the opportunity to have some guests. But I always say, like, I never really know what the next episode will be about. And usually it's just an idea that comes to me. Either I read something, or if I was at a conference, or people ask me questions, or something's happening, in the world or in the classroom or something like that, that kind of gives me an idea. So that's what my podcast is about. The title, Thrive in EDU, it's actually a couple of things. One, it's part of the title of my third book, Unconventional Ways to Thrive in EDU. About a year ago, I formed my own Thrive in EDU for my consulting, and each letter in the word thrive actually stands for something too. So it's that's where the name of it came from, and the ideas for the podcast come from.
Awesome. So where's this show available at?
That's an excellent question. Now, I record on Anchor, and it is on Spotify, and it kind of just streams out different places. And I have some friends who host it on their sites too. So I try and share it out, as often as I can, especially with different topics. I really enjoy listening to podcasts myself, and, just sharing ideas, especially now, I try and put those out there a little bit. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for taking some time out of your day to share with us. And hopefully everybody will connect with you and start listening to Thrive in EDU.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So, all right. Next up is Mr. Coley.
Hey, that's me. So, hey, everybody. Like Rochelle said, would have been nice to do this in person, but this is the next best thing, right? So Teaching tales, very similar to kind of what Rochelle was saying. I used to do, when I taught 5th grade, I did a student podcast. And when I moved into administration, one of the things that I missed the most was doing that podcast with the students. So about 3 years ago, I just came up with the idea. I am a huge believer in the power of storytelling. And as every single person in this group and anyone watching, if you're in education, you have stories to tell. So basically every episode is have a guest on, and exactly like what you said, Rochelle, I don't necessarily know what the next one is going to be. It's if somebody wants to be a guest, I basically say, what do you want to talk about? Like, what are you passionate about? So, I mean, I think we've done 77 episodes, and I've had Ann Cosma on a couple times, John Ike. I've had a bunch of the people in here, Bill and Kyle and John. I mean, so just putting it out there right now, if anyone is interested in being a guest and you've got something passionate you want to talk about, please reach out to me, message me, email me, message me on Twitter, because I'd love to set something up. Basically, we just tell stories. So if it was Ann Cosma, who you guys all know Ann, she's amazing. So I just basically said, Ann, can you tell us some stories about what Flipgrid has done for teachers and students? And she tells stories, because people learn through stories. They're engaging, people remember them. So it's not an interview style show as much as just as a conversation. I have no script, I have no questions. I basically just say, for example, when Kyle was on talking about risk taking, it's like, Kyle, tell me a story, man. And then we just kind of organically go from there. So it's a lot of fun. It's been I've got one in the can with John Ike. We recorded one. He's been on a couple times before. I've recorded another one with him, which is kind of an interesting show, which we recorded simultaneously. We're going to release them. Mine on Teaching Tales, his on Learn with John Ike podcast. But with everything going on with the virus and school closures, I haven't recorded an episode in about a month. It's totally taken a back burner. But again, if you you can see on the screen there, if you go to brentkelly.com/podcast, you can scroll through. I mean, I've had Angela Myers, Carippo a couple times, some good conversations. I had my dad, my daughter, and recently my wife as a guest on. So I just trying to get my mom, but she's a little shy. She doesn't want to do it. So.
All right. And I will add that Brent, when I was on Brent's show, the idea of what we talked about risk taking on that show is actually kind of the birth of the idea for my book that came out too. So I got to actually give Brent some props on helping me get that book made. So
awesome.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of the stories that have been, shared on the podcast that I have shared ended up landing in my book as well. So, yep. So again, anyone who want to be a guest, reach out to me. If you've got something passionate you want to share a story about that you think other people would be encouraged by, don't feel like you're weaseling in. I am putting the open invite out right now for anybody who wants to be a guest.
Awesome. Thank you, Brent. Appreciate it. Next up is TLC Ninja.
Ooh, that's us.
Yay! I wasn't sure who was going to jump in first, me or you.
I guess it was me. So I'm Nancy.
And I'm Lisa.
And together we're TLC Ninja. We put out episodes twice a month, and they're 15 minutes long.
Because ain't nobody got more time than that.
No, they don't. And one exception to the 15-minute rule is our 100th episode. Woohoo! We just recorded last week, and which has been killing me with the editing, because together with the 12-hour days I've been putting in as a tech coach, it's been a little challenging, but it'll be longer than 15 minutes. Typically, we talk about easy things teachers can do to innovate in their classrooms. If you're doing something innovative, come on the show. And I think that what's important is that people are doing innovative things, even if they don't think so. Right, Lisa?
They do. There's so many people who are doing so many interesting things in their classrooms, and they just see it as one quick little thing that they do in their classroom, but it's so inspiring to hear others. We've had topics from coding to not reading logs, but like how to keep students accountable for reading and edu protocols and everything. So we invite people to come on, talk about something that they're passionate about, and that's a trend that I'm hearing with all of us, is that we just want people on to share like the goodness that is out there that you're doing.
And keep in mind, it really is something that everybody's doing, or most people are doing. Maybe the people who are coming to the Q conference virtually are doing. But we're just so excited for people to share their passion and to share with others, because people give so much and so openly. People share resources, people come on and give their tips and tricks. It's just been so wonderful. And we try to do it in bite-sized pieces because teachers are busy people. So that's why our episodes are short. You can listen to them and then they're done. If you were interested in it and you want the resources that are being shared, we have it on our website, tlc.ninja. You know, how could you not get excited about having the domain of ninja, really?
Right. That's a great story too, how we got that. But did we tell people what TLC means?
No, we did not.
Okay, well, it means Tech Learn Coffee. And we have Coffee Nancy, and we have Noah Techie, that's me. And we always have a coffee fact.
Yes, we do. Although we're running out of coffee facts. So if you have a good coffee fact, send it in because we need it. Yes, Tech Learn Coffee and the occasional ninja, because you got to have the ninjas, right?
Yeah.
So we're just excited to allow people a platform to share with others, because if there's no need to reinvent. Together. That's right, better together, and there's no need to reinvent the wheel. There are wheels everywhere. So come on.
And that was my dog, and he totally agrees.
Oh, I didn't hear him. But
good.
Awesome. Thank you. I wish I had the timer set, because it could have dinged to let us know to move on, kind of like your show does.
Could have dinged. All right. Well, thank you. And if you're interested in coming on the show, let us know.
All right. Next up, we're going to have My Tech Tool Belt, but I was informed that they updated their logo. So I'm going to refresh the page real quick, and hopefully that went through. There it is.
There it is. You can see it a little better.
There we go.
So that's us. That's Brenda and I. I'm Shannon Spaldo, and my co-host Brenda Argano, and we do host the My Tech Tool Belt podcast, a labor of love. That is, we are just gonna, actually, I think we just celebrated our 2nd year, this was sort of this podcast highlights teachers who innovate, engage, and inspire using technology in their classrooms. And they could be inspiring their students, they could be inspiring their peers. And it was really born out of the fact that I was seeing all of this great stuff happening in these classrooms of the schools that I worked with. And nobody was telling the stories of what these teachers were doing. And a lot of the teachers that I work with work in schools that can't afford to send them to professional development outside of what the school or the district is already providing for them. And so they didn't have opportunities to go to places like Q or ISTE or anything. In fact, they most of the time have never even heard about those opportunities. So as I shared my stories with Brenda, who was an avid podcast listener for many, many years, she said, Shannon, we got to tell these stories. And so we did. We set up the podcast, and we produce usually about 2 episodes a month is our goal, and they run about 45 minutes or so. And we typically feature a teacher actually solving a challenge in their classroom that they were having with a technology tool. And so, Brenda, what did I leave out?
Basically, an invitation. Because we are teachers just like you. So if you are a teacher that you think would be a good fit for our podcast, or if you know of a teacher or someone in administration as well, anybody who would be a good fit, please let us know. Contact us at our website, mytechtoolbelt.com.
Yep. Or reach out to us. We're on Twitter and Instagram at mytechtoolbelt.com as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much, ladies.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So next up is Between the Johns.
Welcome everybody. I'm John Stamont, and I have my partner John Martinez jump in. Where are you at, John? Anyway,
hey everybody, I'm John Martinez.
So we actually started a couple of years back when it was actually at a Q conference, and so I was watching, listening to podcasting and thinking about podcasting, and we thought about as leaders, as principals, we thought to ourselves, you know what, it's kind of a lonely job sometimes as a principal, and it's very hard to lead your school and try to struggle your way through. So my conversation with John one time was like, let's start a podcast. Let's get a podcast and base it on some research about educational leadership, and talk about, and to be honest about maybe some of the struggles that we deal with, and share out with people and get a sense of what we can do to increase our network, as well as share some ideas and let people know that the struggle is real, but also that it's worth doing and worth doing well, and how we can do it through a network to learn and grow together. And John, you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I think I'd also say that, so our episodes range from, you name it, and we talk about it. We have a strong belief that everybody in a school is a leader. So we could be talking about things in the classroom. We could be talking about things in the cafeteria. We have spin-offs, so to speak, of episodes around connecting with educators to find out what they're passionate about. We call that our difference makers. So we talk to bus drivers and lab folks and classroom teachers and instructional assistants. But, we really we believe that we learn best by being connected with people and learning about their experience and opening our perspective. And so anything that we can do to make that happen makes us help our school be better.
Yeah, so the goal ultimately though is just to expand the network, connect people, and really help people understand that their influence as a leader really can make a difference in public education. So I think that's our goal, and we want to try to tell our stories and be real, and just make sure we try to encourage as many people to do what they can do to make a difference in their classroom, in their school campus, in their community.
Awesome. Thank you, fellas. Appreciate you taking your time out.
Got it.
All right. Next up, we have Tosa's Talking Tech.
Ooh, cool.
How's it going?
It's going. How about you, Tom?
It's going. Kind of enjoying the time off and kind of running around like a chicken with his head cut off, right, Mike?
Yeah, we've had a lot to do in our district. It's been a little crazy.
A little louder, Mike.
Sorry, it's been a little crazy in our district. There's been a lot going on, like a lot of you have been going through.
So we run a small podcast called Tosa's Talking Tech. I think this is coming up to the end of our 5th year doing it. Episode 139 or something like that. I don't know. But we just talk about technology. We talk about what's going on in our district. That's at least how it started. We were both tech Tosas, and we needed a way to get PD out to our peeps. And, they didn't know that they needed to know it at the time. So we created a podcast as kind of like a repository of stuff that, on-demand PD. And it just kind of grew from there.
Yeah, a lot of it in the very beginning, like Tom was saying, we started a while ago, 2015 fall, was a reflection for our new roles. We were brand new tech TOSAs, so it was all new to us. So this was a good way to practice the craft, figure things out, be able to reflect at the end of the week what we talked about, what we learned. And then it kind of morphed into, hey, maybe we can actually teach over a podcast and get some ideas out there, share articles. Ran into some other great podcasters up north, and they were doing it at the same time. So we got a lot of ideas, and yeah, it's just one of those things that just it kind of snowballed for us. It's a great tool, a great way to get out there and meet others and be able to share what you enjoy.
Yeah, we don't do strictly interview shows, but we love having people on the show. If anybody wants to come on, that's probably the best part of being live with a podcast. I think we like to go to a lot of our Q affiliate events and set up our gear and say, hey, come on and talk with us. And we want everybody that we can to be out there. Everybody has a voice. We believe very strongly we need as many voices out there talking about ed tech as we can, and about what you do and the journeys that you're on, because everybody's journey is different. And while we might have a couple of podcast listeners and friends. There's
some.
enough of us out there to kind of share the wealth. So if you're thinking about starting up a podcast or you want to use audio in the classroom, we're big advocates of that too.
Definitely.
Great. All right. Thanks a lot, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next up is podcast by Sons of Technology. So this is one of the ones that I co-host, but I'm going to let my partner in crime talk a little bit about our show a little bit. Joe.
Hey, Kyle. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for putting this together. This is amazing. I mean, I listen and follow many of you, and just amazing to get us all in one place. Yeah, the Sons of Technology started as a Twitter group. I would always go around conferences and on Twitter and just look for just amazing innovators and educators and passionate people. And I would approach them and say, hey, would you like to join our group? And I would always ask, and they'd say, and if they said yes, we would attach them to our Twitter group. And then I would give them a t-shirt. So this is our t-shirt. And so we'd just give them a t-shirt. There's no cost to it. We'd give it to them and we'd just say, hey, we'd love for you to wear it around, the second day of a conference, just to, show that we are a part of this ed tech army, trying to take over education by being rebels and disruptors and things like that. And we had such great chats in that Twitter chat that it came up as some of these chats would be great as a podcast. And Kyle was part of the group, and I said, Kyle, you do a podcast. What do you think? Should we do a podcast with Sons of Technology? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And so the Sons of Technology morphed that way. So we don't really have guests. We actually poll the group and ask them, here's 3 topics we'd like to talk about this week. Who's passionate about it and who'd like to join? So anybody in the group is allowed to join the podcast. We've had anything between just me and Kyle talk, all the way to like 9 people on the podcast giving their perspective. And the whole point is not to sugarcoat anything, to really say how it is and how we think and things we hear about certain topics. And we like to touch on things that might be a little bit touchy, like religion in schools, politics in schools, things like that, just because those are things that we think about. And we really try to emphasize that the sons doesn't mean a gender. It doesn't mean it's only males that can belong, because we have many members that are female. Jen Giffen is one of them. And the sons actually comes, well, it's a play on words from Sons of Anarchy, of course, but the sons is actually from a biblical verse of 1 Thessalonians 5:11. And it basically says that we are all sons of light and daughters of day, and that we are going to speak encouraging words to one another. We're going to build each other up to give us hope and leave nobody behind. And we already know that you're doing this. We're just here to encourage you to keep on doing it. So that's the mantra of the Sons of Technology. It's about building people up, encouraging people to move forward, and letting them know that everybody is capable of doing something, because as educators, when we work together, none of us can fail, because education is a collaborative sport, not an individual sport. And so we all win together and we all go down together. So that's the whole purpose of the Sons of Technology. And we consider ourselves the ed tech army, because one person may be able to make a small difference, but it takes an army to change the world. And that's what we want to do. We want to change the world of education, one teacher at a time and one group at a time. So that's the Ed Tech Army. And you can see some of our blog posts on sonsoftechnology.com. And we also have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/Sons of Technology, that showcases some of the hacks and some of the tools and some of the workflows that we talk about on our show.
All right. Thanks, Joe. You said it very well, represented us both very well. So.
And one last thing, and we also have the option of patching in as well, and then we love to showcase our stuff all over the place, and so just to showcase, hey, we're not afraid to put ourselves out there and just change the world.
So, thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. So next up, Bill Selleck.
Hey, how you doing, Kyle?
Good. How's it going, Bill?
Hey, everybody. It's so good to see everybody. Hey,
Bill.
I'm going to pick up where Joe left off. I think that this is like the most exciting time to be in education right now because of podcasting. Our school has 2 roadcasters. Wave at me if you guys are using roadcasters. Know them, love them. It's amazing. It's a whole studio all in like a $600 box. You get 4 microphones at once. It's super exciting. Like, we're podcasting with our kids, and it's super, as my second grader would say, schmooper exciting. So I actually have 3 that I'm going to plug. The first is the original Bill Selleck Talks. It's a creative name because my name is Bill Selleck, and on it I talk. I'm in my 11th year. I was podcasting before it was cool. I actually had to look that up while we had the exciting info. Oh, and 11 years, can you believe it? It's exciting. It's usually just me. It's rarely other people. And I tend to, you know, kind of John Ike style, like soapbox for 5, 10, 20 minutes at a time. My new project that I'm schmooper excited about, my wife would be so embarrassed if she ever listened to this, but I'm gonna own it. Schmooper excited is heads down, 2 thumbs up. And if there's ever a time to be excited about a new podcast as we are sheltering in place, this is the time, and this is the podcast. So my co-host is Carla Silver. She's the executive director of leadership and design. And we talk about movies that talk about schools. And so we've gone through, it's a new podcast. I think we have 4 or 5 episodes. So we want you to watch the episode, kind of like West Wing Weekly, if you know that.
We lost him for a second, froze up. Bill, we lost you.
And then we talk about it for about an hour. We have different guests on that have expertise in it.
All right. So I guess what we'll do is we'll see if we can come back to Bill since we've lost him, it looks like. So we'll come on to the next one, and then I'll bring him back up at the end here. So, all right. So next one we've got is the TNT EdTech podcast. So we got Scott or Matt here?
Yes, hi, this is Matthew.
I'm back. My kids are on streaming.
Oh, okay. So, all right. Matt, do you mind if we just jump back on his real quick?
Totally. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So, all right.
All
Yeah,
right.
we'll bring you back up then, Bill.
Anyone else love working from home? The last one is the one that's specific to our school, the Hillbrook CTE. That's the Center for Teaching Excellence. That's a picture of Annie Makla. If you do not know about the Scott Center for Social Entrepreneurship, oh my gosh, this is the moment to jump in and check it out. Annie's 2 guiding questions at the Scott Center is, what matters to you and what are you doing about it? If there's ever a time when we can take a couple questions to really rethink what education is, I believe pretty strongly that those 2 questions are kind of where we're headed. It's good stuff. Annie's been a co-host the last year. It's season 4 right now, and it's schmooper exciting.
Awesome. Thanks, Bill. So in regards to the little tech snafu there, if we were at regular in-person Q, we'd all be complaining about the Wi-Fi. So if this is the only hiccup, we're good. So
everything's fine.
Awesome. Thank you. So, all right, Matthew, now we can come back to you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, welcome, everybody. My name is Matthew Catchon, your neighborhood-friendly technology coach. Or I like to say I'm the other guy on Scott's podcast. So we're the TNT EdTech podcast, TNT for teacher and tech coach, Scott the teacher and Matthew the tech coach. And we are a little bit long form podcast with interviews and guests. So we do have educational experts, authors, and leaders on our podcast. We've been here for a year. So we just had our 1-year anniversary in February, 33 episodes in so far, really exciting. We are the sponsored podcast with Q currently, and we just did for the Spring Q series, a series of featured speakers podcasts that you definitely want to check out. Since we didn't always get to see them live in person, or maybe you didn't get a chance to hear them within the virtual Spring Q, you can definitely check out the interviews with all of the amazing speakers, including Rochelle. Has been on our podcast, I think, twice already, which has been amazing. We started, it was a winter break, and Scott's like, hey, we should do a podcast together. And I said, yeah, that sounds like really good. What would we call it? And he goes, well, you're like a tech coach, I'm a teacher. We could have it, you know, the different perspectives in those areas. And they were like, oh, TNT. And then we were really mindful, though. We didn't want to mean like, dynamite or explosives or things. So that's where the logo comes from, like more of a starburst kind of logo. And then I wanted to put a little bit of Indiana Jones in there, so that's the font style that you're seeing. And then we have a little bit of a comic book panes in the logo. So we actually started with the logo first before we even had our vision and mission. We kind of have fun with that. But we're really excited. It's been a year. It's been really incredible. And Scott is so amazing with connecting social media, the better together mantra. He really lives it. And he definitely is someone that supports so many of us here that are together. He's actually doing the Leroy, which is at the same time as this. So he definitely wants to say hi. We're on all the major favorite podcast players that you have. So Apple, Spotify, Pocket Casts, all of those good things. And you can find our podcast at tntedtech.com. Thank you.
No, thank you for taking some time out of your day to join us here. So, all right. Our next show to be featured is the Diesel Podcast.
Hey, hi everyone.
Hello. So I'm Brent Warner.
And I'm Michelle Reyes.
We do the Diesel podcast. So Michelle, jump in if I miss anything or if I say anything that we should be covering. So I've been podcasting in education since 2015, but my old show went away, and this is one of the shows that we turned into. I was happy to get to work with Michelle. We both work in English as a second language, depending on your preferred acronym, whatever of the 500 that you can choose. So DIESEL stands for Digital Integration in ESOL. And we keep saying we're the only EdTech in ESL podcast until someone proves us wrong. So yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, and then our show focuses on, we look at research or what's out there, and then we look at technology and see how we can best put that into practice in our ESOL classrooms. And Brent and I both teach adult learners. He teaches at a college, and I teach just adult learners. But in our field, it's really hard to find something that's in that niche. We see a lot for K through 12, but we don't see anything for higher ed ESL or adult ed ESL. So that's what we do.
Yep. So one show twice. We do first and third Mondays. The first is, as Michelle said, we dig into the research, and we actually look at what the research says, and then we look at how we can apply that research into the classroom with technology. And then we have the third of the month, or the third Monday of the month, we are having guests on, and the guests are kind of open conversations around their kind of specialty or area of expertise. Oh, thanks. The logo, yeah, we wanted to do kind of the old Rat Fink style, hot rodder logo. And so if you listen to the show, it's all kind of themed out that way.
Awesome. Thank you very much for enlightening us on your show.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Check This Out.
Oh, hey, that's me. Is that right?
You.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. Should I be Brian Briggs for you?
Yes.
Hey, how's it going there?
Hey, everybody. How's it going? Thanks, Brian. I don't know about you guys. Is podcasting right now in this crazy world? Like, it's just, things are nuts right now. I'm finding myself super motivated and also totally unmotivated to podcast. Even to listen to. Sometimes I look at my phone and I'm like, there's nothing I want to listen to. So I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I do a show. I partner with Brian Briggs. Bill Selleck was stepping in for him right there. We've been doing the thing for about 5 years and such. So, and I'll be honest with Briggs, he's not here, and I could get talked into a trade if anybody's interested. So he specifically, I asked him not to be. No, I didn't.
What's the going rate for a Briggs?
Yeah, so we do a show. It's called Check This Out. We did it back in the day when, you guys remember, like, it was everything new just came down the pike. It was oh, you got to see this. And every conference and everybody was saying cool things you got to check out. So that's what we kind of started doing it. And I just needed a place to stay at a hotel once, and Brian had a room. So I said, hey, if I put you on a podcast, could I stay in your hotel? So that's where our show began. Anyway, so yeah, we tried doing the interview thing. I know a lot of people like doing that. We kind of realized it's not really kind of our jam. We tried doing the short thing. We realized that's not our jam either. So we talk for, I don't know, we try to keep it under an hour. We don't really look at a clock. Our show's really, it started out as ed tech, but it's really just kind of, we just like to have a lot of laughs, some snark. We try to really be honest about what's happening with what we see in education in our particular worlds. I'm a high school teacher. Brian's a director of innovation. And after 5 years, I still don't know what the heck he really even does. But that's it. That's our show. I don't know what you can find it where you find stuff. So yeah, check this out. Every time you say it, you think of the show. Check that out. Anyway, that's me.
All right. Thanks a lot, Ryan. Next, we have Shooks and GIF.
Hey, everybody. I'm Jen Giffen.
Jen Giff.
Hi. I am half of the Shooks and GIF podcast. Unfortunately, my co-host Kim couldn't be here, but I do have over here a life-size representation of her. That's pretty much how big she is. So that's a 2-scale model of little Shooks there. We always start with a joke, so I thought I'd do one here. I found a bunch of Corona jokes. A lot of them are really off color, but I'll do this one. Here we go. Nail salons, hair salons, waxing centers, tanning places, they're all closed. My friends, it is about to get ugly out there.
Nice. I get it.
Thank you for the sound effects. Love it. So Kim and I have been podcasting together for about 3 years. We come to you live and direct from just north of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So it's actually 5:36 where I am. My kids are ringing downstairs waiting for dinner. And we used to work together. We were both digital literacy consultants, and we did a lot of different conferences together. We'd go present together and separately. And when we'd sit together at lunchtimes, and we'd talk through things, people would often tell us like, oh God, you guys need a podcast. I would totally listen to that, because our banter back and forth, we get really excited, and it's pretty genuine. Like, we really love what we do. So for about a year, we joked around, we'll have hashtag Shooks and GIF. And then I was listening to Matt Miller's Ditch That Textbook podcast, and I realized how easy it could be with Anchor. Because our thing was like, oh, we don't have the time, I don't want to invest the money. And then we thought, you know what, maybe we should just give it a go. And so it was spring break, and she was actually down in South Carolina, and I wrote her and I said, I think we can do this. And then I was like, I developed a logo, and I did a website for us, and I have this, and I just sort of built it up. And I said, do you want to record on Monday at lunch? And we never looked back. Our goal was to do 10 shows, and we're coming up on 50 now. We're in season 3, and we just have a blast. It's especially great now that we don't work together. I'm not in the role of digital literacy consultant anymore. I'm now a teacher librarian. So it's nice to be able to still make that contact every couple of weeks. We tend to go every other week. We're on a bit of a hiatus right now for obvious reasons. We have a lot on our plate, and it's something that, as much as we love to do, we don't feel it can be a priority at this time. We both have young children that we're homeschooling, and then helping support the staff that we support in our respective roles. But generally, we sit down together, and we don't have much planning. We open our site, and then like, what are you going to talk about? What are you going to talk about? And we just share ed tech treasures we love. It can be a resource, it can be a new site, it can be something, just a little trick. We call them itty bitty shooky giffies that we learned, and that's pretty much it for us. Like, we go, we have fun. We laugh. We try to keep it around the 30-minute mark. Some days it's longer, some days it's shorter. And like a few have said, we did do interviews. I know Ryan just said that we did do interviews. We had some midterms, but the flow wasn't the same for us. We wanted to be together. So that's what we do. We record actually in Camtasia, and then we upload it to Anchor, because it's just super easy for us. And we're trying to do things on the show that we can replicate in classrooms. And that is Shooks and GIF.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. All right. Last one, I believe, is the Beer EDU podcast. So this is my show. My partner, Ben, was unable to make it today, so it's going to be on me to tell you about this one. So this show is, it's the idea came to us when we were thinking about when you go to the bar on a Friday after work, after a long week, and you sit down with your coworkers and you say, we're going to sit here, we're going to have a beer, we're going to have a drink, we're not going to talk about work, and then you do it anyway. So the whole idea behind the show kind of was that, where taking those conversations you have at the bar and just going with it and then recording them. So, but Ben and I both, we're also craft beer geeks / aficionados, you could say as well. So we kind of geek out on the beer a little bit too. So the format of the show is that we start out and we kind of riff for a couple minutes and we each introduce a beer that we're having, and we geek out on the specs of the beer, the style, the ABV, and all the different details of the beer. And then we have a guest come on and they are free to do the same thing if they'd like. And then we have a conversation. Just we don't prep questions. We just kind of talk about whatever the guest wants to talk about. And then we close each show out with a little learn about beer segment where we take some aspect of beer culture and we do a little research and learn about it. We just we recorded an episode this morning that's going to drop in a couple of weeks, and we did a little research on a beer style called Dunkelweizen. So it's little bits like that we kind of close each show out. So the episodes are about an hour. About 50 minutes of it is actual education. The other 10 is the beer. So it's a lot of fun to do, and we do it. We have a guest form on our website, beeredupodcast.com. Fill that out, and we can have you on the show and talk about something that you're passionate about. It's a really good time. So that's all of our shows that we have listed here. So now we do have a few minutes left. So now we can just kind of open up to like kind of a free riff Q&A kind of session, any sort of deal. And we could just kind of have a little bit of fun with this then. So question for me that just came up, do I brew my own beer? I don't. I want to. And there's plenty of people that I know that have encouraged me to do so, but I just don't have the time between writing a blog and recording 2 podcasts and having a family and a job too. So, but
I don't know. Sounds like another podcast, Kyle.
That does sound like one. So
come over to our house. We brew beer about once a month.
There you go.
Oh, that sounds like fun. So we could get a little, well, if Briggs was here, he could tell you about Edgy Hoppers. They were teachers brewing beer for a while. Ryan, are they still doing that?
Not so much.
Nope. So question. Oh, best mic. So this one, I think we could probably get into a little bit of a debate about.
Kim and I probably have the best mic out there. It's my iPhone earbuds wrapped around my Clean Canteen water bottle. It's pretty awesome.
There you go.
I think if you're going for a good mic, my new favorite is the Rode Pod mic. They're $100. I put them up against $600 mics, and I prefer the Rode Pod mic. If you're using the ZenCaster Pro, which I talked about earlier, there's even a preset for the Pod mic.
Yes, there
They're
is.
really, really good.
So I like my Blue Yeti. It's about $100. Different settings on it, volume control. If you're in the middle of speaking and you have a cough or a sneeze or something coming on, you can mute your mic real quick. And it's a USB plug into your computer, so you don't have to buy anything extra for that. So it's about $100.
I'm still on the Audio Technica 2005 USB, and it's been a solid mic for many years, and you can drop it, which is nice.
That's a good mic.
I have the Heil PR40 that I got because I got a grant, and that's the only reason why I have it. I also have the Rode Podcaster, which is pretty nice.
So I saw somebody asked about podcasting with students. It's actually a podcast that our head of school, my boss, his name's Mark. So his is called Remarks and Reflections. Isn't that a great title for it? So we have 2 Rodecaster Pros. One of them is in a Pelican case, and so he'll take that into classrooms and interview students. So yeah, we do that on those. Those tend to be harder to edit, and so yeah, just either kind of front load people saying, hey, it's kids and there's going to be a little bit sloppy, or just know that there's going to be more editing involved. But that's the one podcast where we're really bringing students on. It's super cool. Makes them want to do their own.
I did one last year with my class. I used Anchor, literally gave it over to like 6 kids and said, figure it out. They had a bunch of questions. They were research questions about our community and our school, and then they interviewed people and then recorded it and figured it all out without me.
Our high school had 3 sessions in the can of their journalism class. Basically, it was a news podcast for the kids. I was helping with that. They would come in, they'd record, and then they would take it and edit it and put it on their own site. That was really fun. And then, everything got shut down.
I used to do it with 5th graders. We used to do it as like a culminating project at the end of units. So the students would basically summarize what they had learned. So they would write all the scripts. That's why I liked it, because it worked on the writing, but then it also gave them the opportunity to work on their speaking skills. And you've got those kids who put them up in front of the class, they would die, but then you put a little Logitech mic on them and they turned into Tom Brokaw. So it was awesome.
So Brent, I'm going to follow up on that.
Yeah, Brent.
Yeah, I was doing that yesterday with my class. We're doing it all online. And I gave them Anchor and I said, go figure it out, as was also mentioned there. And for me also, my students started freaking out. And then I told them, because I work with adults at the college level, but I also said, because we're ESL, the time negotiating how to do these things online is also learning how to speak in English and communicate really complex ideas and trying to share with each other when they can't exactly see what's going on with each other's screen. And so I gave them, and they just went for like a full hour and they're just like processing and they're like getting all frustrated. And then I came in and I'm like, good job. It's great to get frustrated, but you're using English and you're figuring out how to record these things all together. So I'm just going to re-encourage the comment that's come through a few times, is just let them go at it, because they're going to learn on many levels how to do it.
Yeah, I have to agree with Brent. That's the one thing about this medium that we use, audio with students. You'll get them, once they hear the playback, that they'll edit themselves over and over and over again. We did this project with some writing and just having them record what they wanted to write out first. And they went back 6-7 times to edit what they said. Try that with just handwriting. They're not going to do it. But with audio, they want it perfect.
A couple of the questions that have been coming up in there is like kind of what everybody's using for the recording process as well, outside of the microphone. So if anybody would like to kind of share some of the programs that they're using too.
We have Audition. We use Audition, and the only reason I do that is because I have an Adobe subscription through my district to do a whole bunch of other stuff, and I'm like, that comes with it. Let's use that. So, of course, the first thing I did as a Tech-TOSA when I didn't know how to use Audition was I ran over to YouTube and I figured out how to use Audition. And there are a bunch of free ones out there too. Basically, if you want to learn anything about audio recording, just go to YouTube. Find what works, find what's available, find what's free. They all can basically do about the same thing.
I use GarageBand. Bill kindly came in and told me that I can just drop the files from the Rodecaster Pro directly into GarageBand. It took me many hours to figure that out until I figured out, oh, I should probably just go ask all my friends on Twitter who do this stuff too. and then so Bill and everybody else who jumped in on that. But minor editing, I know that a lot of people kind of said the same thing, is try to just record live, be real. Sometimes we do a little bit of editing, cutting out a few choppy parts, but for the most part it's pretty direct. Put it into GarageBand, then it tracks it all out, and you can just chop it up if you need to, and then quickly publish.
Yeah, and Jen Giffen mentioned earlier that her and Kim use Camtasia for their recording, and that's what I use now as well, is Camtasia. I do all my editing and piecing in there, and Camtasia on an educator license, you can get it for $169. So it is a little bit pricey, but it's not just for audio editing. It's a great video editing tool as well. Personal opinion, I think it's way better than iMovie. So I'm sure many in here share that opinion as well. It's a great tool. I started out the first couple episodes, Ben and I were using Soundtrap, which is a free, freemium. You can pay for a subscription for Soundtrap, but that's a great audio tool where you can record podcasts. And actually the theme music that we have on Beer EDU, we actually created that using loops in Soundtrap. And then we recorded for a while, but then once we started having guests, it became more complicated. So that's when we started using Google Hangouts to record using Camtasia. And then now Hangouts has been really terrible as of late, and we've actually merged over to Zoom and started doing our interviews on Zoom and recording with that, and it's sounding really good.
Yeah, and we're not funded, so everything that we spend is completely out of pocket. So we have to be very frugal about what we use. So we use Audacity, which is free, and then we to do most of our editing, and then at the end I'll also run it through Auphonic, which is also free. You can pay for an additional time, but they give you a certain amount of time for free every month. And that program is amazing, let me tell you, because it corrects all the highs and lows for you. So which is so nice when you're interviewing people, and sometimes people come in very softly, sometimes you get a big boom in during the recording, so it just evens all that out. It's pretty amazing.
Brenda, can you type that into the chat for the spelling?
Sure.
And then we use Zoom as a backup as well. So we always have a backup to the backup because we've run full episodes. We've recorded full episodes and got nothing. So we not only record straight through Brenda's recording equipment, but we run a Zoom meeting in the background. So, and then we have it broken out into each track for each guest, and that helps a lot too. So we always have a backup.
I'd say if you're just starting out as a classroom teacher and you want to get this going just with students, Anchor app is incredible. They'll not only, one thing about podcasting, you do have to have a host for the show, somewhere that your show lives and is pushed out. They'll do that for free for you. And that's a cost that a lot of us pay out of pocket right now. At least Tom does.
Oh yeah.
But Anchor app will help you publish your podcast and push it out there for you, house it for you, help you with editing, interludes through there, whatever you need. It's all in one product for podcasting.
Somebody asked earlier about a little bit of post-production. The one thing I'm pretty careful of is not to use a gate. I don't like the sound of it. For me, I can always hear people when they cut in and cut out. It'll essentially completely mute the channel if you're not talking above a certain level. I almost always add compression. So you ready for a super quick lesson, everybody? Compression, this is like the quietest you can be, the loudest you can be. What compression actually does is limits the loudest, and then you can bring the whole thing up. So now this is actually the quietest and the loudest. So it's great for people who don't know quite how to use a mic, and they'll talk like this. You know, it's like loud and then quiet. And then I EQ as needed. Sometimes I don't EQ at all. I try and just subtract instead of add to it. Like they sound a little tinny, so I'll just scoop out around 1,000 hertz, or they're too boomy, so like cut the low end out. You don't always have to add.
We just started using WeVideo for recording, so that was an interesting piece. That I have a coach, an instructional coach, and so she's beginning to work with a group of students, and she'll use WeVideo and strip out the video and just keep the audio. And so she has a Yeti mic, and we're using Chromebooks, and so the kids are all doing recording, and then they're learning how to run the audio, and then they're putting it all together, and then from there we then host it on YouTube. So right now it's just something very simple, just trying to get them to learn how they sound, correct themselves as they speak, and then so every time they do like a mini podcast or a session, they'll go through and they'll listen to it, they'll edit themselves, they'll kind of reflect on their process, and then from there they'll make their changes for the next time they get together. But it's just something that we're just starting real simple at our school. So WeVideo is a great tool to use.
We've used ZenCaster as well. Z-E-N, I just dropped it. Let me hit enter here. Just dropped it in the chat. What I like, it's only audio. I like the Zoom because just seeing you guys, it's nice when you see people nodding their heads and stuff like that. But the thing about ZenCaster that I like is you can download, it separates the tracks. So then I can drop it into Camtasia, which I use, like Kyle and a few of you. Then you can, if I'm more loud than the other person, I can just adjust the volume for each individual track, and it's free.
Yeah, Audition lets us do that. It's called Normalize. So it'll take all the tracks and make them the same level. It's an awesome tool.
And Zoom lets you split out the tracks as well for each guest. It's just one of the settings. So check that out if you like to use it. We found it as a great alternative. And for kids, like if it's something already set up in your school, we have it at the university. So it makes it really easy to do that as well.
What's that setting in Zoom called, Shannon?
I will drop it in the chat window. It's just in one of the audio settings. I'll go find it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Multi-track.
Awesome. Well, we're getting pretty close to the end here of our time. So first of all, I want to say that I hope everybody's safe, everybody's healthy, you're taking care of your families. That's number one at this point. And then we're taking care of everything else as well. So, but I also want to say thank you for everybody that's here, guests and podcasters. Thank you for everything from the last few months as we put this thing together. And while preferably it would have been, I think, better if we would have been all together in Palm Springs doing this, because then we could have exchanged all of our stickers and swag as well. I can say that this was awesome. This was a great hour here, seeing everybody and hearing your stories about your shows and sharing some of your tips and everything. So I can't thank everybody enough for being here today.
Yes, thank you for putting it together for us.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle, for hosting.
Absolutely.
Great job, Kyle. Big time, Kyle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Big fans.
So make sure if you want to go back and see this again, the recording will be posted before long in the Q Events app, so you can see the recording again. And make sure you're connecting with all the podcast hosts that are here today. See about getting on their shows and check out their websites and ask them some questions about how you can start podcasting either yourself or with your students. And again, thank you everybody for being here today, and have a good one.